Trech is back again. Let's talk about why this is a vote of confidence for new offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes and the direction of the offense. Why you should be positive about this if you're a Badger fan.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Badger Nation? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Listen, this is a busy time of the year. Basketball's going on, the portal's going on, and we got a lot of time to talk portal because we're not bowling. So we got portal talk. Trech Kekahuna is back with the Wisconsin Badgers. He had entered the portal, pulled his name back. I have multiple mixed feelings on this. I'm going to tell you why you should feel good about it, or why I think you should feel good about it, but also why I was a little hesitant when I first heard the news. I want to hit a couple of comments first, though. Steve Kneebone says, could the reason Trech is back that he has an idea of who the portal quarterback will be? Okay. I think that's interesting. Kenneth Pulfus, I want to get to that one from Steve in a second. Kenneth Pulfus says, this is hilarious for real, for real. Yeah, this is portal. Like this sport is so different, man. Y'all remember, and what was it, like 10, 15 years ago when a player could transfer because he had already graduated, he had that graduate thing, and the coaches could put a list of schools. Do you guys remember this? This is how far the sport has come, where the coaches could literally say, sure, you can leave, but you can't go to Houston because in 3 years we're going to play them, which was always absurd. And if anyone has anything, there's nobody in the NCAA that can get frustrated with where this is at now because it's on them. It's archaic stuff like that that led to this, where coaches were putting, if you remember, lists of schools that you can't go to. Yeah, I'll let you leave, but you can't go to any conference school or any school that I may or may not play in the next 4 years. Like, it was absolutely insane. And now it's the point where you have players a year or two in the system, leaving the portal, getting a bunch of offers, then coming back to the program. It is, as Kenneth said, it's absolutely wild. Let me tell you why this is good. If you're a Badger fan, why you should be optimistic about this. It's Trech could have left, obviously. I don't know if he necessarily got the offer list he wanted, but there was plenty of Power 4 schools, Power 5 schools that wanted Trech Kekahuna. He was posting the offer list. He could have left. He could have gone to other Big Ten schools. He had a Minnesota offer, for example. Him coming back tells you a couple things. It tells you that this school has done and continues to do a pretty good job of retaining the players they want to retain. That tells you that there's money there. It tells you that players are buying into the culture. They're still buying into that vision to some degree, because otherwise they're not going to come back. But more importantly, with Trech, I think it tells you he feels good about Grimes, Jeff Grimes, the new offensive coordinator. He feels good about the system going forward. He feels good about what's going to happen at quarterback. And to the point where Steve brought it up earlier, maybe he knows who the quarterback is, has confidence there. Absolutely. If you're a receiver, and we're going to get into Locke in a second, and this is not a bash Locke show, but if you're a receiver and you just kind of played through what was one of the worst passing games in the Big Ten, one of the worst passing games in competitive Power 4, you're not coming back unless you feel like that problem is going to get addressed. So I do feel like this is an indication that he probably knows either who it is or the short list of who it is, and he feels good with all of them. If you're a Badger fan, you got to feel good, because if your receiver is buying into it, that makes you feel a little more confident about also buying into it. I think that's an important step here. I think that matters, that players are buying into what this looks like. Clearly, Coach Jeff Grimes isn't getting in the building and ticking people off, right? He's pulling people back in. I'm sure he's had conversations with Trech Kekahuna. This is how we're going to use you. If you look at the Kansas offense that Jeff Grimes run, it's a lot of motion, jet sweeps. It's getting guys involved. He's finding ways to use his weapons. There's more creativity. You can just imagine Trech Kekahuna on that jet sweep 2 or 3 times a game, right? Here's how we can get the ball to you. Here's what we're going to do to get you the ball more. You know those conversations happen. Otherwise, he wouldn't be coming back. He wouldn't be back here in Madison. So I think that is something to be confident about for sure. My only point of hesitation, and I just want players that are all in. And I know that's not as easy in the portal era. You look back at Marcus Allen, who was here when Luke Fickell first got here. Marcus Allen transferred, had an offer to Minnesota, committed, and then came back, and it still didn't work. And it just feels like this team so desperately needs culture and toughness right now that that's almost more important than just getting the aggregate best amount of talent. You have to have players that are buying in. You have to start building that culture, start building that toughness. And I don't buy, by the way, that you can't do that in the portal era. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I think it's much harder. I don't think it's as simple as it used to be. I still think you can build culture. I still think you can identify the right types of players. I still think you can find the right pieces to help build your locker room, to help build toughness. I want players who are all in. And I just get a little hesitant when a player leaves and then comes back. Ultimately, it's fine because this is a business and we are in the business. I say we as like I'm part of that talent acquisition group. I'm not, obviously. But the Wisconsin Badgers, like every other college football team, are in the business of acquiring the best talent they can. And Trech is one of those guys. He makes the receiver room better. He makes it more athletic. He makes the team more dynamic. He gives you a playmaker. All those things we've ever said about Trech that we love are still there. That engine is still under the hood, right? That 8-second car, no, is it a 10-second car? Y'all, I'm not a car person. I'm going off literally Need for Speed and Fast and Furious for my car knowledge. But that wagon is still there. Trech can move. He can be dynamic. We just need players that are all in. I'm not saying he's not, but that to me concerns me a tiny bit. Where are y'all at on this? Because we're gonna get into some other stuff here too. Yeah, Ryan Robbins talking about quarterbacks we got to get. Nick B says, "Who's Trech? Trech Kekahuna." Nick says, "Real Marcus Allen vibes. If Allen was decent, yeah." That's one of the first things I thought of too. There is some Marcus Allen vibes there. Doesn't mean it's going to work out the same way. And I think Trech is a better player than Marcus Allen. But Marcus Allen was the guy we liked too. Had a Michigan offer. Braden Campbell says, "Wonder if he's coming back because someone is leaving." I think he's coming back because he trusts the vision. And because he trusts what we're going to do with Grimes, what we're going to do with quarterback. I think that's why he's coming back. He wanted to be in Madison. This is a player who, through multiple coaches, through Paul Christ and Leonard and to Fickle, this is where he wanted to be. This is a long-standing relationship between Trech Kekahuna and University of Wisconsin and Madison. So I think he's comfortable here. He wanted to be here. He's good friends with Anelo Lafayette, who's still here. Like, this is where he wanted to be. And I think they just had to sell him on the vision of it. And it sounds like they did. Because quite frankly, if they didn't, trust the actions, man. If they didn't, he would still be in the portal. And I definitely think that's something to take heed of. Tyler Strieber says, if they're not in the portal talking to teams, it's tampering, right? Go to the portal, hear your offers, then decide from there. Wouldn't surprise me if a player does this offer after every year. Yeah, I mean, there's so much tampering going on, Tyler, and I think you know that. I've heard stories upon stories. I don't know how coaches deal with it, quite frankly, at times. And I don't know how players deal with it, quite frankly, at times. Always having people yapping in their ear. There is so much tampering going on at this point. Ken says the Trech one stung. Happy he's back. We had another comment in here that said Trech was one of the only guys that he was from Evan Gabriel. Good dude. One of the only guys that entered the portal that he cared about. Glad to see him back. Yeah, Trech makes the team better. There's no doubt about it. Trech makes the receiver room better. He makes the team better. There's a question about where he fits. Right, is if he's coming back, he's going to want to play. You still have Will Pauling coming back. You have Kyle Barry Johnson. That slot spot is pretty full. Can Trech be a boundary guy? Maybe, but then where does Vinny play? Neither Trech nor Vinny plays best if they're the line of scrimmage, the X receiver that's got to be a little more physical. That's more of a Bryson Green, CJ Williams, maybe Eugene Hilton in a year or two type. So it is going to be interesting where these pieces fit, assuming Pauling's back. But you can't have too many good players either. Right, there's an element of that. So I think they're trusting Grimes to figure it out. I think he probably will. Again, I think this is a good move. I just think you got to have players that are all in. I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he won't be. That would be my only concern with this. We're going to take a quick second for our friends of the show. We're going to come back and talk about Braedyn Locke entering the portal. Why? What my thoughts are on that. Why I hope people are kind about it. I don't know if I worded that the right way, but we're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel remains the number one source for all your sports betting needs. They are phenomenal, quite frankly. They're awesome. They're fast. They're simple. They're easy. I mean, they're kind of like me. I guess I'm not easy. That sounds terrible. That's not where I'm going with this. But I'm simple. I'm going to shift gears on this one. FanDuel, futures, parlay, spreads, teasers, it's all there. Plus, new customers get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet over at FanDuel.com. Great time to do it. Listen, NFL playoffs are heating up. Our playoff runs are heating up. College football playoffs are coming up for sure. You have NBA, college basketball. A great time to make some money on FanDuel. If you're me, it's a great time for me to lose money. because I'm not a great gambler, but FanDuel is still where I go because it's the simplest, fastest, easiest way to do it. Do it responsibly over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NFL. You've probably heard of them. The official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. You probably heard of them. The official sportsbook of me. You probably haven't heard of me. All over there at FanDuel.com. All right, let's get back into this. Let's talk Braedyn Locke for a sec, because I do think it's important. I know it. I know the sentiment with Braedyn Locke leaving. There is a sentiment of good. Like, we can get better quarterback play. Braedyn Locke's a guy who's always accountable. There's a lot of players in the last couple of years, and I'm not going to throw a bunch of names out here. There's a lot of players when it didn't go well, did not face the music on this team, on this roster, the last couple of years. Guys that have gone to the NFL, guys that have had nice NIL paydays, guys who have always been out there when it's gone well and have not always been out there when it's gone poorly. Braedyn Locke states he's always stood up and faced the fire. Graham Mertz was like that too. I respect that. I respect the hell out of that. Braedyn Locke played his ass off. He played really hard. It's not all his fault that it didn't work out. It just didn't. It didn't work out. We needed to move on. I think he probably needs to move on because this is not going to be his job going forward. We kind of talked about that coming into the offseason. They were going to get a new quarterback. But listen, Phil Longo was fired. I don't think Braedyn Locke was always given the best opportunity, and he also didn't play very well. All that being said, don't be the people going on social media and like blasting him, would be my opinion. Like, he played his ass off. It didn't work out, and he was always accountable for it. That's really all you can ask for. And that's more than a lot of players have been. So that's my take on Braedyn Locke. It didn't work out clearly. They have to get better quarterback play. I mean, that's an obvious. They're going to get better quarterback play because, quite frankly, this is going to sound like a shot. I don't mean it as a shot. We were 17th in the Big Ten, I think, in passer rating last year. It's got to get better. It is nowhere to go but up. And one of the points I've made consistently is you can change offensive coordinators great. And I think actually the longer I sit on Grimes, the better I feel about it. The longer I sit on Grimes and the longer this hire has happened, the more and more I feel energized about a return to a physical route with kind of a modern style, offensive line guy. They're going to pair him with a quarterback's coach. I really like it. But we're also going to just get better because we get better quarterback play. And Grimes is going to get a lot of that praise. He's going to get a lot of that credit. They're going to say, holy crap, look at the offense is much better now, going from Longo to Grimes. Whereas I think a lot of it's just going to be we're going to get better quarterback play. And that's going to elevate everything. To me, it's kind of the inverse of when we went from Leonard to Tressel, and people are putting a lot of blame on Tressel. The Leonard defenses were so much better. I just think they were more talented. So I think Grimes is going to have a more talented offense to run, and it's going to look better because he has more talent and because he's doing a few different things. All this goes back to the fact that we have to get better at quarterback. I respect the way Braedyn Locke went about his business. It is what it is. This is a wins and loss business, and you got to get a better quarterback, but it is what it is. Ty says, I'm looking forward to seeing who the quarterback coach is going to be. I agree. Bo Dragon says, prove Trech is a playmaker. Yeah, you can go back to the LSU game. You can see it. You can go back to a few moments this year. He had a 60-yard touchdown pass reception, I believe, right? Am I off on that one? Someone correct me. I think he had one of the longest receptions of the year, him or Vinny Anthony. So he has to be better. He has to catch the ball better, but I do think he was underutilized, and I think this entire offense was underutilized because they had an issue at the quarterback spot. And if you have an issue at the quarterback spot, it's hard for your receivers to shine. I think that's a fair sentiment. Let's see. A couple more thoughts here. Ryan Hepting says, find a way to get Trech and Pauling on the field. Shouldn't be hard. I agree. That's part of a coach's job. It's part of an offensive coordinator's job. Find a way to best utilize your talent. It is easier to best utilize your talent when you have your two best receivers is a slot guy and maybe a 6'3" boundary guy, right? I think that's fair to say. But you can use both of them on. You put one on each side of the field. You can send one in motion. You can put one in the backfield. I do think Trech can play some boundary as well. Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. You do have to find a way to get the best talent on the field. Zach Bartz, Preston Stone, backup Dylan Longerin from the portal. Preston Stone is a name I've heard a couple times actually today. Interesting guy, SMU quarterback, entered the portal, really good last year. Lost his job early in the season this year. I kind of like him, though. He's mobile. I think he would fit this offense pretty well. I think he could do worse than Preston Stone. If that's where the Badgers ended up at quarterback, I'm probably going to be doing a video on him to kind of break him down a little bit. I think he could do worse than that, and I think he would fit the offense that Grimes has pretty well. Okay, let's keep going. Any more comments here? Zach Bart's Trech with the Grimes jet sweep. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Nick says Stone is the SMU guy. Yep, SMU guy. Ken Payne, this is a good question. What does the receiver room look like next year? So, assuming nobody else leaves, right, and the portal's open right now, you're going to have Vinny Anthony on one side. You're still going to have CJ Williams on the other side. It's a big, big year for a couple receivers in that room. It's a huge year for a Quincy Burrows. It's a huge year for a Chris Brooks Jr. if they can bust out. And I think both those guys, especially Chris Brooks Jr., might be really interesting in Grimes' offense. Again, you got to remember this is a different offense, and they're going to look for a few different things from the receivers. They use the receivers a lot. Grimes has in the past, cracking down on linebackers on defensive ends. Chris Brooks would be great at that. So maybe he finds a bigger role. You still have Kyan Barry Johnson coming in, Eugene Hilton Jr. I think you're probably looking at the top four of maybe a CJ, Vinny, Pauling, and Trech. I think that's probably your top four. And then mix in a Chris Brooks Jr. potentially. And that's not a bad room. It's not a great room, but it's not a bad room. And then there's a possibility as the season goes on and Eugene Hilton Jr. starts to work into the rotation a little bit. Maybe a Quincy Burrows starts to work into the rotation a little bit. I think that's the group you're looking at. And then they got to recruit more in the high school ranks next year. You've had 2 straight classes with one receiver out of high school. You got to get 2 or 3 next year. You just got to build up those young numbers again. Okay, let's get some more comments here. Josh, love that Trech is back. Okay, let's keep going here. A couple more questions about Trech. I think we covered Trech, though. Hooger says Locke is going to go to a MAC school. I do think he's probably going to drop a level, which is fine. I hope he finds success because I respect the way he handled business in Wisconsin, in Madison. I respect it. And his offensive coordinator's gone. His younger brother is still coming in. His younger brother was in the 2025 class. We'll see what happens there. I think it's fair to speculate that that may or may not be a long-term thing. Yep, Josh actually brings it up next. With Braedyn leaving, does Landon decommit? Here's the thing with Landon. So he didn't have a ton of film out there this year because he hurt his knee, right? And it's very late in the game. So if you're Landon Locke, you can go to Madison, you can rehab at a big-time school, give it a year, and then kind of reevaluate where you're at. I think to me that makes more sense than decommitting and trying to find a lower level school where you're still going to have to rehab. Why not take a year at Madison, rehab, get to know the new coaches, see if you can make an impression. Maybe whoever we get in the portal doesn't really work out, or maybe, listen, quarterback's a fluid spot. Don't completely write off Landon Locke. I don't think it's real. I think, listen, Carter Smith has a higher pedigree. I think maybe Metor does as well. But, I mean, who knows? We've all seen quarterbacks surprise. We've all seen quarterbacks without the greatest physical skill set surprise. So I think that's the route for Landon Locke. That's what I would recommend. Stay in Madison. It's a great town, great college, good coaching staff, good training staff, rehab, get healthy, and then in a year reevaluate. I think that makes a ton of sense. Barry's LN says the kids had one game, pump the brakes, Ryan. I'm not even sure what that's in reference to. I don't even know what that's. Is that in reference to Trech? I mean, even if he hasn't had a ton of great games, like he clearly is one of the better athletes in that room. And this team needs talent. So I don't fully know. I think that's probably in respect. Let's see. Yep, Hooger says respectable guy. He wasn't our quarterback. He's not skilled enough. I agree. Like you can equally say, hey, we got to move on. But also, I cringe a little bit, and I get it. Like I'm a fan, and social media amplifies this aspect of being a fan. I cringe a little bit when I see some of the comments under the Locke is leaving type stuff. And it's just the dude tried, man. It's not on him. It's not. It's not. Like, so that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. They're going to get better at quarterback next year. They're going to bring in someone else. Locke is going to go somewhere else. It just wasn't a fit. Yep, Dominic says Weigman to Houston. He was a guy the Badgers had a little interest in. Texas A&M transfer, so he's off the board. I do think Preston Stone is interesting. He might be, he's definitely a guy to keep in the back of your head. Jake Inaro says, yo, what's up on Wisconsin? I love Jake, man. Jake's a good dude. Will Hanna's in here. Zach Bartz is in here. We got a bunch of good dudes in here. Dominic's in here. Hooger is great. Evan Gabriel, Bird Dogger, Nick B, Bo Dragon, Robert Sorensen. There's a bunch of great guys in here. We'll wrap it there. I just really kind of want to talk about those two parts of this. Trech coming back, Braedyn Locke going to the portal. Let's wrap it up with 3 comments. Let's see if I find 3 more comments. I mean, there's a ton of comments in here. Let's see. By the way, really quick, kind of a PSA. I would love, if anybody's watching and anybody's interested in this, I would love to have somebody when we do some live shows, not all of them, but if somebody wants to jump in and like manage comments. I know that's on Inglourious, on Glamorous. I don't know. But if anybody was interested in doing something like that, like helping out some, especially on like live shows after games where we get like 1,000 people watching, 800 people watching, and a bunch of comments, I find myself watching the comments more than like trying to engage in the conversation. Anyway, let me know if anybody's interested in helping out in that aspect of it. DM me on Discord, Twitter, whatever it is. Okay, let's go here. We'll finish up on comments here. Yep, Dominic said touch on Nowakowski to the portal as well. And that's kind of interesting because, Grimes is a guy who will use the H-back quite a bit. He'll use a guy like a Nowakowski. It actually could have been a pretty nice fit. But again, a player that you definitely wish the best of. I think Jackson Aker next year could slide into that role and actually have a pretty nice role in the Grimes offense. Smo asks if Joseph Griffin Jr. is still with Wisconsin. He is. I would not count on that to be I don't know. Bigger receiver. The Badgers need that. They brought him in from Boston College. He's had some red zone success. Former 4-star guy. I would not fully count on it, is what I would say there. Evan Gabriel, thoughts on tight ends quick. I was talking about it the other day, and I got a lot of pushback on this one. I get it. I'm more okay with the tight end group than I think a lot of people are. I think Steck's going to take a jump. I think a guy like Ashcraft is actually a pretty solid inline tight end. And another year, he's just going to get a little bit better, right? He's forced to play early. I think he got a little better this year, a little undisciplined still. I think he's going to be even better next year. I like a guy like Jackson McGowan next year coming in as more of that spread tight end now that he's had a year in the system. So I don't think it's a drastic need in the portal. But if you can get somebody to make the room better, you absolutely do it. Excuse me one sec. Hold on. Had to cough there and had to mute it. Yeah, Ryan Robinson says Steck will be a monster. I agree. I like him a lot. All right. We're going to wrap it there because I am coughing now. On Wisconsin, Trech comes back. Again, to recap, I think that's a really good sign if you want to find confidence in the direction of the offense. Because he's not coming back unless he wants it. He's not coming back unless he believes in it. So I think that's a good sign. Braedyn Locke leaves. I think it had to happen. But I like how he handled his business in Wisconsin. Anyway, we'll wrap it there on Wisconsin. Brian Smith coming up tomorrow. He's going to talk about the 2025 recruiting class, his thoughts on it, including why he thinks the receiving room for this, why he thinks Wisconsin has done a horrific job recruiting receivers, but also why he thinks this defensive line class is the best one he's seen at Wisconsin, maybe ever. So good conversation with Brian coming up tomorrow. Make sure you check that out on Wisconsin, and we will talk later.